The morning sun painted golden streaks across the windows of Moonbeam Café, casting a warm glow over the cozy space that Emma Rosewood had poured her heart into creating. Steam rose from the espresso machine like morning mist, while the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans danced through the air. Emma moved behind the counter with practiced grace, her chestnut hair tied back in a messy bun, a few rebellious strands framing her face as she worked at 26. Emma had built something she was truly proud of. The cafe wasn't just a business, it was her sanctuary. Vintage books lined wooden shelves, mismatched chairs invited customers to stay a while, and fairy lights twinkled overhead like captured stars. Every corner told a story, from the old typewriter displaying daily quotes to the community board, where locals shared everything from job postings to lost cat notices. Emma, table 7, wants another lavender latte. Called Chloe Martinez, Emma's best friend since college, and the cafe's only other full-time employee. Chloe's vibrant personality matched her colorful aprons, and her infectious laugh could brighten even the gloomiest Monday morning. "Coming right up," Emma replied, already reaching for the lavender syrup. She loved the rhythm of her work, the hiss of steaming milk, the gentle thud of coffee grounds being tamped, the satisfied sighs of customers taking their first sip of perfectly crafted coffee, the storm before the calm outside. Dark clouds gathered ominously, promising an afternoon downpour. Emma glanced at the weather through the large front windows, mentally preparing for the usual rush of people seeking shelter from the rain. The cafe always became busier during storms, filled with the sound of raindrops against glass and the grateful chatter of unexpected visitors. The morning crowd was typical college students hunched over laptops, business people grabbing quick caffeine fixes, and elderly Mr. Thompson reading his newspaper while nursing his third cup of black coffee. Emma knew most of her regulars by name and order, creating the kind of community atmosphere that chain coffee shops could never replicate. "Did you see the news about Cross Technologies?" Chloe whispered, sliding up beside Emma while wiping down. "The counter. That young billionaire Nathan Cross just bought another company. Apparently, he's some kind of tech genius who turned a small startup into a billion-dollar empire before he turned 30. Emma shrugged, focused on creating the perfect foam art on the lavender latte. Good for him, I guess. Though I can't imagine what it would be like to have that much money and power. Probably lonely at the top. Lonely? Are you kidding? With that kind of wealth, he could have anything or anyone he wants. Chloe laughed. I bet he lives in some glass penthouse overlooking the city, surrounded by expensive art and servants. Money doesn't buy happiness, Emma said quietly, a shadow crossing her face. She'd learned that lesson the hard way during her childhood. Watching her parents' marriage crumble under the pressure of financial stress and social expectations, the unexpected encounter the cafe door chimed, and Emma looked up to see a man unlike any of her usual customers. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore an impeccably tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his sharp jawline could have been carved from marble. But it was his eyes that caught, her attention steel gray and intense, as if they could see straight through to a person's soul. He moved through the cafe with confident strides, clearly accustomed to commanding attention wherever he went. Several customers glanced up from their laptops and conversations, recognizing something powerful about his presence even. If they couldn't place exactly who he was, the man approached the counter, pulling out his phone to check what appeared to be an urgent message, his brow furrowed with concentration, and Emma noticed the way his fingers moved quickly across the screen, decisive, efficient, like someone who made million-dollar decisions before breakfast. "What can I get you?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the way her pulse had inexplicably quickened. He looked up, and for a moment, their eyes met. Emma felt something electric pass between them, a connection she hadn't expected and couldn't explain. His expression softened almost imperceptibly, as if her simple question had surprised him. "Coffee black. Large," he said curtly, his attention already drifting back to his phone. Emma bristled at his tone. She prided herself on creating A welcoming atmosphere where every customer felt valued, not rushed through like items on an assembly line. "We have several single erogen options," she said pleasantly. "Ethiopian has bright, fruity notes, while our Colombian is more chocolatey and rich. There's also I don't have time for a coffee education," he interrupted, not looking up from his phone. "Just give me whatever's fastest." Standing her ground, the dismissive tone hit Emma like a slap. She'd encountered rude customers before, but something about his casual arrogance, the assumption that his time was more valuable than her expertise, ignited a fire in her chest. "Sir," she said, her voice taking on a distinctly cooler edge, "this isn't a gas station. We're a specialty coffee shop that takes pride in our craft. If you want generic coffee served with a side of rudeness, there's a chain store 3 blocks down." The man's head snapped up, his gray eyes widening in surprise. Clearly, he wasn't accustomed to being challenged. Around them, the cafe had grown quieter, with several customers watching the exchange with barely concealed interest. "Excuse me?" he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You heard me?" Emma replied, crossing her arms. "You walked into my cafe, demanded coffee without any regard for what we offer, and acted like I should be grateful for your business. Well, here's the thing. Good coffee requires respect for the process and the people who make it. If you can't, manage basic courtesy. You're welcome to take your business elsewhere." Chloe had frozen mid-wipe, staring at Emma with a mixture of admiration and terror. The mysterious customer was clearly wealthy and powerful, the kind of person who could probably shut down small businesses with a single phone call. The revelation for a long moment, the man stared at Emma, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, his lips curved into what might have been the beginning of a smile. "You're absolutely right," he said, sliding his phone into his pocket and giving Emma his full attention for the first time. "I apologize. That was incredibly rude of me. Had a difficult morning, but that's no excuse for poor behavior." Emma blinked, caught off guard by the sincere apology. "Oh well, thank you. Could we start over?" he asked, extending his hand across the counter. "I'm Nathan Cross, and I would very much like to hear about your coffee recommendations."
Emma's.
Heart nearly stopped. Nathan Cross, the billionaire Chloe had just been talking about. The tech mogul whose face graced magazine covers and whose business decisions made headlines. And she had just told him to take his business elsewhere. "You single quotes," she stammered, then caught herself. Taking a deep breath, she squared her shoulders and took his offered hand.
"Apt Emma Rosewood."
"And I still think you should try the Ethiopian. It's exceptional." His handshake was firm and warm, and he held her gaze as if she were the most interesting person he'd encountered all day. "Then Ethiopian it is. And please add whatever you think pairs well with it. I'm in your hands." An unexpected connection as Emma prepared Nathan's coffee. She was acutely aware of his presence at the counter. He didn't pull out his phone again or tap impatiently. Instead, he watched her work with genuine interest, asking questions about the brewing process and the origin of the beans. "You really know your coffee," he observed, as she handed him the perfectly crafted cup. "It's my passion," Emma replied, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. "I spent 2 years learning from master roasters in Seattle before opening this place. Every cup tells a story." Nathan took a careful sip, and his eyebrows rose in appreciation. "This is incredible. I can actually taste the difference." "Most people can, once they slow down enough to pay attention," Emma said, then immediately regretted the subtle dig. But Nathan just laughed, a rich, genuine sound that transformed his entire face. "Touché. I deserved that." The storm arrives. As if on cue, the sky opened up, and rain began pelting the cafe windows in heavy sheets. The few customers who had been preparing to leave settled back into their seats, clearly in no hurry to venture. Out into the downpour, Nathan glanced toward the windows, then back at Emma. "Mind if I wait out the storm? I promised to be a model customer." "You're welcome to stay," Emma said, gesturing toward the seating area. "Find any table you like." Instead of choosing one of the prime spots by the window, Nathan selected a small table near the counter, close enough that he could continue their conversation during lulls in the afternoon rush. Over the next hour, Emma found herself stealing glances in his direction. He had shed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, making him look less like an intimidating billionaire and more like a regular person enjoying a quiet afternoon. He alternated between working on his laptop and reading one of the books from Emma's community shelf, occasionally looking up to catch her eye and smile. "Chloe's observations, girl? You need to see yourself right now," Chloe whispered, peering at Emma's elbow with a knowing grin. "You're practically glowing." "I am not glowing," Emma protested, though she could feel her cheeks warming. "Right. And I'm not Chloe Martinez, coffee shop matchmaker extraordinaire," Chloe teased. "That man has been watching you for the past hour like you're the most fascinating thing in the world." Emma risked another glance toward Nathan's table and found him already looking her way. This time, instead of quickly averting his gaze, he raised his coffee cup in a small salute, his eyes crinkling with amusement. "He's just being polite," Emma muttered. But even she didn't believe her own words. Honey, billionaires don't stick around coffee shops for hours just to be polite, especially not in weather like this. He could have called his driver or taken shelter anywhere in the city. The moment of truth as the afternoon wore on and the rain showed no signs of stopping, the cafe gradually emptied until only a few dedicated customers remained. Nathan had long since finished his coffee but showed no inclination to leave. Instead, ordering a pastry and engaging Emma in conversation whenever she had a free moment. "Tell me about this place," he said during one of their chats.
Did you
"End up here?" Emma found herself opening up in a way that surprised her. She told him about her dream of creating a community space, about the struggles of opening a small business, about the satisfaction of knowing she was making a difference in people's daily lives, even in small ways. "It's not glamorous," she concluded with a self-conscious laugh. "Nothing like running a tech empire, I'm sure." "Don't underestimate what you've built here," Nathan said seriously. "This place has something my corporate offices never will, Soul. You've created something that matters to people." The sincerity in his voice made Emma's heart skip. "Thank you. That means a lot." An unexpected proposal as closing time approached. Nathan finally gathered his things. Emma felt an unexpected pang of disappointment, realizing how much she had enjoyed their sporadic conversations throughout the afternoon. "Emma," he said, approaching the counter one last time, "I know this might sound presumptuous, but would you consider having dinner with me? Somewhere we can talk without interruption?" Emma's mind raced. This was Nathan Cross, billionaire, CEO, cover of Fortune magazine. What could he possibly want with a small-town coffee shop owner? "I don't know," she said honestly. "We live in very different worlds." "Maybe. That's exactly why we should get to know each other better," Nathan replied. "I haven't had a conversation this genuine in longer than I care to admit." Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced down, and her face paled. "What is it?" Nathan asked, noticing her distress. Emma looked up at him, her eyes wide with panic. "My landlord, he's selling the building. I have 30 days to find a new location, or," she swallowed hard, "or Moonbeam Café is finished." The weight of the moment settled between them, the fragile beginning of whatever was growing, between them suddenly overshadowed by the very real threat to everything Emma had worked to build. Nathan's expression grew serious, his businessman instincts clearly kicking in. "Emma, please don't," she interrupted, holding up her hand. "I won't accept charity, especially not from someone I barely know." "It wouldn't be charity," Nathan said quietly. "It would be an investment in something worthwhile." Emma shook her head, the walls she had carefully constructed around her heart slamming back into place. "Thank you for the offer, but I'll figure this out on my own. I always do." As Nathan left the cafe that evening, stepping out into the rain-soaked streets, both he and Emma knew that their worlds had collided in a way that would change everything. The question was whether they would let those worlds merge or allow them to drift apart, taking with them the possibility of something extraordinary. The story was just beginning, and neither of them could predict where it would lead. The morning after the next morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Sunlight streamed through the cafe windows, casting the same golden patterns Emma had grown to love, but everything felt different. She moved through her opening routine, mechanically grinding beans, arranging pastries, flipping the sign from closed to open, while her mind churned with worry about the landlord's ultimatum. 30 days. The number echoed in her head like a countdown timer. 30 days to find a new location, secure financing, handle the move, and somehow keep her business alive through the transition. In the harsh light of morning, it seemed impossible. "You look like you slept about as well as I did," Chloe observed, arriving for her shift with 2 cups of coffee from the chain store down the street. A gesture so unlike her that Emma knew her friend was genuinely worried. "Thanks," Emma said, accepting the cup gratefully. "I spent most of the night looking at commercial real estate listings online. Everything decent is either too expensive or too far from our customer base." Chloe settled onto a stool behind the counter, her usual morning energy subdued. "What about a loan? Or maybe we could find an investor. With what collateral?" Emma laughed bitterly. "The cafe barely breaks even on good months. No bank is going to loan money to someone whose business could disappear in 30 days. As if summoned by their gloomy conversation, the cafe door chimed, and Nathan Cross walked in, like yesterday's perfect businessman attire. Today he wore dark jeans and a navy sweater that made his gray eyes even more striking. He looked younger, more approachable, but Emma felt her defenses rising automatically. "The return, good morning," Nathan said, approaching the counter with a cautious smile. "Was hoping I could get another one of those Ethiopian coffees, and maybe we could talk." Emma's hands tightened around her cup. "If this is about yesterday's conversation, it's not," Nathan interrupted gently. "Well, not entirely. I have a business proposition, but it's not what you think." Chloe perked up with interest, but Emma remained wary. "I told you, I don't accept charity. And I told you this wouldn't be charity. May I?" He gestured toward one of the tables. Against her better judgment, Emma found herself nodding. She prepared his coffee with extra care, using the ritual to calm her nerves. When she brought it to his table, Nathan was reviewing what appeared to be legal documents. "My company is expanding into new markets," he began without preamble. "We're looking for local businesses to partner with for our employee wellness program. Premium coffee service, catering for meetings, that sort of thing." Emma sat across from him, suspicious. "And you just happened to think of my little cafe?" "Actually, yes." Nathan's smile was disarming. "I've had 12 cups of coffee since leaving here yesterday, from some of the most expensive places in the city. None of them came close to what you made. Quality like that is rare." The business proposition, Nathan slid a folder across the table. This would be a legitimate business contract. Cross Technologies would guarantee a minimum monthly order enough to cover your overhead costs plus catering for executive meetings and corporate events. Emma opened the folder, her eyes widening at the numbers. It was more than enough to solve her immediate financial problems and provide a stable foundation for growth. "Why?" she asked, looking up from the paperwork. "This seems too generous for a standard vendor agreement." "Because I believe in investing in quality," Nathan replied. "And because I've learned that the best business relationships are built on mutual benefit, not desperation." Chloe had been listening from behind the counter, and Emma could feel her friend's excitement radiating across the room. But Emma had learned to be cautious about offers that seemed too good to be true. "There has to be a catch," she said. Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her face. "The catch is that you'd have to trust me. And given our brief acquaintance, I understand why that might be difficult." Unexpected complications before Emma could respond. The cafe door burst open with unusual force. A woman in an elegant cream-colored suit strode in, her heels clicking authoritatively against the hardwood floor. She was beautiful in the way that money could perfect sleek black hair in a sophisticated bob. Flawless makeup, and jewelry that probably cost more than Emma's entire wardrobe. The woman's sharp gaze swept the cafe dismissively before landing on Nathan. "Said he saw you come in here?" Nathan's expression shifted, becoming more formal. "Sophia, I wasn't expecting you, obviously." The woman Sophia turned her attention to Emma, looking her up and down with undisguised disdain. "And you must be the coffee girl Nathan's been talking about." Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. At the condescending tone, "I'm Emma Rosewood, owner of Moonbeam Café. Can I get you something?" "I don't drink coffee from places like this," Sophia replied coolly. "Nathan, we need to talk. Privately." "Family pressured," Nathan's jaw tightened. Sophia, this is Emma. Emma, my mother, Sophia Chen. The introduction hung in the air like a challenge. Emma could see the family resemblance now, the same strong jawline, the same intense eyes, but where Nathan's gaze held warmth, his mother's was calculating and cold. Charming, Sophia said, though her tone suggested anything but. Nathan, the board meeting moved up to this afternoon. We need to discuss the Henderson merger, and your father wants to review the quarterly projections. I'll be there, Nathan said curtly.
Good at.
And after that, we're having dinner with the Blackwell family. Isabella is back from her trip to Europe, and her father thinks it's time you two rekindled your friendship. Emma didn't miss the emphasis on friendship, or the way Nathan's face darkened at the mention of Isabella. She felt like an intruder in a family drama she didn't understand. I'm not interested in rekindling anything with Isabella, Nathan said firmly. Sophia's smile was razor sharp. Darling, personal interest is a luxury we can't afford. The Blackwell partnership could secure our position in the European market for the next decade. The reality checkum stood abruptly, the business folder still clutched in her hands. I should let you two talk privately. Nathan, thank you for the offer, but I need time to think about it. Emma. Wait, Nathan started to rise, but his mother's hand on his arm stopped him. How wise, Sophia said approvingly. It's important to think carefully before making decisions that could affect one's entire future. The warning in her voice was unmistakable. Emma felt a chill run down her spine as the reality of Nathan's world became crystal clear. This wasn't just about coffee or business contracts. This was about power, politics, and strategic alliances, things she had no experience navigating. I understand completely, Emma replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Thank you again for considering my little cafe for your wellness program. As she walked back toward the counter, Emma heard Sophia's voice drop to a whisper, but the acoustics of the cafe carried her words clearly. Really, Nathan? A coffee shop owner? I thought you had better judgment than that. Chloe's counsel, after the Chen family drama departed, leaving behind only the lingering scent of expensive perfume. In tension, Chloe immediately pounced. Okay, what just happened? And why do you look like someone ran over your puppy? Emma slumped against the counter, the business folder feeling heavy in her hands. Reality happened. Nathan Cross isn't just some successful businessman, he's heir to a corporate dynasty with expectations and obligations I can't even imagine. So, he's still a person. And he's obviously interested in you. His mother made it pretty clear what she thinks of that interest, Emma said bitterly. And there's apparently some Isabella person waiting in the wings. Chloe frowned. Wait, Isabella Blackwell? I've seen her in the society pages. Total ice. Queen, but her family owns half the shipping companies on the East Coast. See? That's his world. Corporate mergers disguised as dinner parties and strategic marriages. Where exactly do I fit into that picture? Maybe you're not supposed to fit, Chloe said thoughtfully. Maybe you're supposed to be something different, something real. An afternoon revelation, the lunch rush passed in a blur of complicated orders and worried thoughts. Emma tried to focus on her customers, but her mind kept drifting to Nathan's offer and his mother's obvious disapproval. By mid-afternoon, she had almost convinced herself to tear up the contract when James Parker, Nathan's assistant, appeared at her counter. Ms. Rosewood. Mr. Cross asked me to deliver this. He handed her a sealed envelope with her name written in Nathan's bold handwriting. Inside was a simple note. Emma, I meant what I said about this being a legitimate business opportunity. My personal life is complicated, but my professional commitments are solid. The offer stands regardless of anything else that might happen between us. Nathan attached was a modified version of the contract with even more favorable terms and a clause that allowed Emma to terminate the agreement at any time, without penalty. The unexpected visitor an hour later, as Emma was still mulling over Nathan's note, the cafe door chimed again. This time, it was a man Emma didn't recognize, still silver-haired and impeccably dressed, with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Ms. Rosewood. I'm Oliver Hayes, a business associate of Nathan Cross's. He approached the counter. With a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, I wonder if we might have a word. Something about Oliver Hayes made Emma's skin crawl, though she couldn't pinpoint exactly why, of course. What can I do for you? I understand Nathan has made you a rather generous business proposition, Oliver said casually. I'm here to offer you an alternative. Emma's grip tightened on the coffee cup she was cleaning. I'm sorry, Nathan is young, idealistic. Sometimes he makes emotional decisions that aren't in anyone's best interest, including his own. Oliver's smile grew sharper. I represent a consortium of investors who could offer you twice what Nathan proposed, with no strings attached. Warning, why would you do that? Emma asked suspiciously. Let's just say we have Nathan's best interests at heart. He's at a crucial point in his career, poised to take over one of the most powerful companies in the country. Distractions could be ... costly. The implication was clear, and Emma felt anger flare in her chest. Are you suggesting I'm some kind of gold digger? Not at all, Oliver said smoothly. I'm simply pointing out that sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone we care about is to step aside and let them fulfill their destiny. Emma set down the cup with more force than necessary. And if I refuse your generous offer? Oliver's friendly facade slipped slightly, and you might find that running a small business in this city becomes much more difficult. Health inspectors, tax auditors, zoning committees, they all have jobs to do. Sometimes those jobs become more ... when certain concerns are raised. The threat was delivered with such casual politeness that it took a moment for the full meaning to sink. When it did, Emma felt a cold knot form in her stomach. Get out, she said quietly. I beg your pardon?
Out.
I said get out of my cafe. Now. Oliver straightened his tie, his mask of friendliness completely gone. Think carefully about your choices. Ms. Rosewood. Nathan Cross lives in a world you couldn't possibly understand. Don't let naive romanticism ruin your life. The decision after Oliver left, Emma sat alone in her cafe. Surrounded by the familiar comfort of her books and fairy lights, feeling more isolated than ever. The business folder lay open on the counter, Nathan's revised contract promising financial security and professional growth. Beside it sat Oliver's business card with a phone number and the promise of an easy way out. Chloe found her there an hour later, staring at the paperwork with unseeing eyes. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost, Emma told her about Oliver's visit, watching her friend's expression shift from confusion to outrage. That's blackmail, Chloe exclaimed. You have to tell Nathan what this guy said, do I? Emma asked warily. Maybe Oliver's right. Maybe I am in over my head. Since when do you back down from a fight? Chloe demanded. The Emma I know would. Tell that pompous jerk where he could stick his threats and then figure out how to beat him at his own game. Emma managed a weak smile. The Emma you know has never been threatened by billionaire business consortiums before. So, you're still the same person who stood up to Nathan Cross yesterday when you thought he was just another rude customer.
Oh.
Same person who built this place from nothing despite everyone saying you'd fail. The phone callous. If summoned by their conversation, Emma's phone buzzed with an incoming call. Nathan's name appeared on the screen, and Emma hesitated before answering. Emma, I just heard about Oliver Hayes visiting your cafe. Are you all right? The concern in Nathan's voice was unmistakable, and Emma felt some of her tension ease. Did you Hayes works for my main competitor? They've been trying to undermine my deals for months. What did he say to you? Emma recounted the conversation, and she could hear Nathan's sharp intake of breath. That bastard, Emma, please don't let him intimidate you. Hayes is all blustered. He can't actually do any of the things he threatened. How can you be sure? Because I won't let him. Nathan's voice was steel. I may be young and idealistic, as he probably put it, but I'm not powerless. Hayes forgets that I have resources too. The moment of truth, Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. On one side was safety, the familiar struggle of making ends meet, but at least she knew the rules. On the other side was Nathan's world full of possibility, but also danger, corporate politics. And people like Oliver Hayes and Sophia Chen, who would stop at nothing to protect their interests. Nathan, she said finally, if I take this contract, if I let myself get involved with you, what happens when your mother decides I'm a threat? What happens when the board decides you need to marry Isabella Blackwell for the good of the company? There was a long pause before Nathan answered. I don't know, he said honestly. I wish I could promise you it would be easy, but it won't be. My world is complicated, and the people in it play for keeps. But Emma, I know that what I felt yesterday in your cafe was real. More real than anything I've experienced in years. Emma's heart raced at his words, but her practical mind held her back. Real feelings don't always survive real-world pressure. No, they don't, Nathan agreed. But they also don't survive never being given a chance. The choice that evening, as Emma locked up the cafe, she found Nathan waiting outside. He stood under a streetlight, hands in his pockets, looking less like a billionaire CEO and more like a man hoping for something he wasn't sure he deserved. I brought you something, he said, holding out a small wrapped package. Inside was a vintage coffee grinder, clearly antique but lovingly restored. I found it at an estate sale this afternoon. The dealer said it's from the 1920s, probably used in a family cafe in Little Italy. Emma traced the ornate metalwork with her fingertips, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. Nathan, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I wanted to. He stepped closer, and Emma could see the uncertainty in his eyes. Emma, can't promise that being involved with me will be easy. My family, my business associates, the media, they're all going to have opinions about us. But I can promise that I'll fight for whatever this is between us. If you're willing to take the risk. Emma looked down at the coffee grinder in her hands, then up at Nathan's face. In the soft glow of the streetlight, with his perfectly styled hair slightly mussed by the evening breeze, he looked younger, more vulnerable. 30 days, she said finally. What? I have 30 days to save my cafe. If we're going to do this, if we're going to see what this could be, then you need to understand that this place comes first. It's not just my business, it's my home, my community, my heart. Nathan nodded solemnly. I understand. Do you? Emma challenged. Because your mother made it pretty clear that I'm not suitable for your world. And if we're being honest, she's probably right. My mother doesn't get to decide who I care about, Nathan said firmly. And Emma, you're not trying to fit into my world. I want to be part of yours. The leap of faith. Emma studied his face in the lamplight, searching for any sign of doubt or insincerity. What she saw instead was determination mixed with hope, the expression of a man who had finally found something worth fighting for. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, I'll take the contract, and I'll see where this goes. She held up her hand as Nathan's face broke into a grin, but slowly, carefully. And if at any point this starts hurting my cafe or my friends, I walk away. Fair enough, Nathan said, then added with a smile that transformed his entire face. Though I should warn you, I'm very persuasive when I want something. I should warn you, Emma replied, matching his smile with one of her own. I'm very stubborn when someone tries to change my mind. As they stood there on the quiet street, the cafe's lights twinkling behind them, and the city stretching endlessly in all directions, both Emma and Nathan knew they were stepping into uncharted territory. The business contract was just the beginning, a reason to see each other, to build trust, to discover whether the connection they'd felt could survive the pressures of their very different worlds. Neither could predict what challenges lay ahead. But for the first time in longer than either could remember, the future felt full of possibility instead of obligation. And sometimes, possibility was enough to build a life on. The real test would begin tomorrow, when their two worlds would truly start to merge. But tonight, standing under the streetlight, with the promise of something extraordinary hanging in the air between them, anything seemed possible. 3 weeks had passed since Emma signed the contract with Cross Technologies, and the transformation had been remarkable. The steady stream of corporate orders had not only solved her immediate financial crisis, but allowed her to hire 2 additional part-time employees and expand her menu. The cafe buzzed with new energy, filled with tech workers who had discovered Emma's exceptional coffee through their company's catering program. But it wasn't just the business that had flourished. Nathan had become a regular fixture at Moonbeam Café, arriving each morning at precisely 8:15 for his Ethiopian coffee and staying to work from his corner table. What had started as a professional relationship had gradually evolved into something deeper. Long conversations during quiet afternoons. Shared laughter over Emma's attempts to understand corporate jargon in moments of comfortable silence that spoke louder than words. "You know he's falling for you, right?" Chloe observed one morning, watching Nathan through the window as he took a phone call outside. Even in the middle of what appeared to be an intense business discussion, his eyes kept drifting back to the cafe, searching for glimpses of Emma. Emma's cheeks warmed as she wiped down the espresso machine. "We're just getting to know each other. It's complicated." "Honey, the only thing complicated is how hard you're both trying to pretend this is just business," Chloe laughed. "That man looks at you like you hung the moon." The perfect storm as if summoned by their conversation. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Turn on Channel 7 News. Now." Emma's blood ran cold as she grabbed the remote and switched on the small television mounted in the corner. The morning news anchor's voice filled the cafe. Billionaire tech mogul Nathan cross-spotted repeatedly at a small coffee shop in the Arts District, sparking rumors about a possible romantic involvement with the owner. The screen filled with grainy photographs clearly taken with a telephoto lens. Nathan entering the cafe, Emma bringing him coffee, the two of them talking and laughing together. The photos had been carefully selected to suggest intimacy, even though their interactions had been perfectly innocent. The mystery woman has been identified as Emma Rosewood, 26, owner of Moonbeam Café. Sources close to the Cross family report that Nathan's mother, Sophia Chen, is less than pleased with her son's apparent interest in someone so far outside their social circle. Emma sank onto a stool, her hands trembling, around the cafe. Customers were pulling out their phones, some taking pictures, others whispering excitedly. The peaceful sanctuary she had worked so hard to create was being transformed into a circus before her eyes. Isabella's arrival, the cafe door chimed. But instead of Nathan's familiar figure, a woman Emma had only seen in society page photographs, glided in. Isabella Blackwell was even more stunning and personal and elegant, with platinum blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon and wearing what was clearly a designer coat that cost more than most people's cars. She approached the counter with the confidence of someone who had never been denied anything in her life. "You must be Emma," she said, her voice cultured and smooth. "I'm Isabella Blackwell. I believe Nathan has mentioned me." Emma's mouth went dry. "Ms. Blackwell, what can I get you?" "Actually, I was hoping we could talk privately." Isabella's smile was perfectly polite, but her blue eyes were ice cold. "Perhaps we could sit down?" Against her better judgment, Emma found herself following Isabella to a table in the back corner. The other woman moved with practiced grace, clearly comfortable being the center of attention, even in a place so far beneath her usual standards. "Charming little place," Isabella said, though her tone suggested she found it anything but charming. "Very quaint." "Thank you," Emma replied, stiffly, unsure where this conversation was heading. The ultimatum. Isabella leaned forward slightly, her expression becoming more serious. "I'll be direct, Emma. Nathan and I have known each other since childhood. Our families have been planning our eventual marriage for years. It makes perfect sense from a business standpoint." Emma felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "I see. Nathan is going through a rebellious phase," Isabella continued dismissively, "playing with the idea of marrying for love instead of strategic advantage. It's rather romantic, actually, but ultimately impractical. And you're telling me this because—" Isabella's smile sharpened. "Because I like you, Emma. You seem like a genuinely nice person, and I'd hate to see you get hurt when Nathan inevitably comes to his senses." The condescension in her voice made Emma's temper flare. "How considerate of you." "I'm serious," Isabella said, her mask of friendliness slipping slightly. "Nathan's world isn't like this cozy little cafe. There are expectations, obligations, pressures you couldn't possibly understand. Need someone who can navigate board meetings and charity galas, someone who understands that every decision affects hundreds of thousands of employees and shareholders." Emma stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I think this conversation is over. Emma, wait." Isabella's voice took on a note of urgency. I'm not trying to be cruel. But Nathan's mother has already started making moves to separate. You too. The news story this morning? That was just the beginning. Sophia Chen doesn't lose, and she's decided you're a threat to her family's legacy. The words hit Emma like ice water. What do you mean? Isabella's expression became almost pitying. Haven't you wondered why certain permits for your cafe expansion have been delayed? Why your insurance company suddenly wanted to reassess your coverage? Sophia has connections everywhere, Emma. She can make your life very difficult without ever directly confronting you. Emma sank back into her chair, the pieces falling into place. Mysterious delays, the unexpected inspections, the sudden change in her relationship with her suppliers. It hadn't been coincidence. But it doesn't have to be this way, Isabella continued smoothly. Walk away now, with dignity and a generous settlement, and Sophia will ensure your cafe not only survives, but thrives. Stay and she'll destroy everything you've worked for. Why? Are you telling me this? Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Isabella's smile returned, colder than before. Because I want Nathan, and I always get what I want. This way everyone wins. You keep your cafe. Nathan gets the partner he needs, and I get the life I was born for. Nathan's return as if the universe had decided to test Emma's resolve. Nathan chose that moment to enter the cafe. His eyes, immediately, found Emma and Isabella at their table, and his expression darkened. Isabella? What are you doing here? Hello, darling, Isabella purred, rising gracefully to air-kiss Nathan's cheeks. Was just getting acquainted with your little friend. She's absolutely charming. Nathan's gaze moved between the two women, clearly sensing the tension. Emma, is everything all right? Emma looked up at him, this man who had brought light into her life, who made her laugh and challenged her to dream bigger. But now she saw him through different eyes, understanding for the first time the weight of expectation he carried. The forces aligned against them. I'm fine, she said, though her voice was strained. Isabella was just explaining some things about your world that I didn't understand. The confrontation, Nathan's jaw tightened as he turned to Isabella. You say to her, only the truth, Isabella replied innocently, that you have responsibilities and obligations that go beyond personal desires. My obligations are my concern, Nathan said coldly, as are my personal choices. Isabella's composure cracked slightly. Nathan, be reasonable. Your mother is already taking action. Emma's cafe will be destroyed whether she cooperates or not. At least this way she gets something out of it. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Emma watched Nathan's face cycle through surprise, understanding, and finally, fury. My mother did what? His voice was dangerously quiet. She's protecting the family, Isabella said, seemingly oblivious to the storm building in Nathan's eyes. Just like she always has. Emma doesn't belong in our world, Nathan. Surely you can see that. The choice. Nathan turned to Emma, his expression desperate. Emma, whatever my mother has done, whatever Isabella has said, we can fix it. Yeah, I can fix it. Emma stood slowly, feeling the weight of every customer's curious stare, every whispered conversation about the drama unfolding in their quiet cafe. Can you, Nathan? Can you really? Yes, he said firmly. I won't let them destroy what we're building. And what exactly are we building? Emma asked, her voice breaking slightly. A relationship that exists in secret. A love that threatens everything you've worked for. A future where I'm always looking over my shoulder, wondering what your mother will do next. Nathan stepped closer, his hands reaching for hers. Emma, please, don't let them win. Emma looked down at their joined hands, remembering the first time he had shaken hers across the cafe counter. So much had changed since then. But the fundamental problem remained. They came from different worlds. Those worlds were at war. Ryan's returned before Nathan could say more. The cafe door opened again, and Emma's heart sank as a familiar figure walked in. Ryan Mitchell, her ex-boyfriend, looked exactly the same, sandy brown hair, easy smile, and the kind of casual confidence that had once made her feel safe. Emma, Ryan's voice carried across the cafe, and suddenly every head turned their way. I heard about what was happening on the news. I came as soon as I could. Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of too many complications crashing down at once. Ryan represented her old life, safe, predictable, uncomplicated. Everything Nathan's world was not. "This is perfect," Isabella murmured, clearly enjoying the drama. "Nathan, darling, perhaps it's time to admit that Emma belongs with someone more ... suitable to her station." Nathan's face flushed with anger. "Isabella, I suggest you leave now." "I don't think so," Isabella replied smoothly. "This is getting quite entertaining." The breaking point, Tryon approached their table, his eyes taking in the tense scene. "Emma, what's going on? Who are these people?" Emma felt trapped between her past and her uncertain future, with hostile forces closing in from all sides. The cafe, her sanctuary, had become a battlefield, and she was caught in the crossfire of a war she had never asked to fight. "Ryan, this isn't a good time," she said weakly. "Actually, it's a perfect time," Ryan said, his voice gaining strength. "Emma, I know I hurt you when I left. I know I made mistakes. Seeing you on the news, seeing how these people are treating you, it made me realize what I lost." Nathan stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. "I don't know who you are, but this is between Emma and me. I'm the man who loved her before you decided she was your new toy," Ryan shot back. "Enough!" Emma's voice cut through the tension like a blade. The entire cafe fell silent, and she could feel every eye in the room focused on her. "All of you, stop. Just stop." She turned to address each of them in turn. "Isabella, your threats. Don't scare me. Ryan, you gave up the right to fight for me when you walked away. And Nathan, ... Her voice softened as she looked at him. "Nathan, you can't save me from your world. I can't save you from your obligations." "The painful truth, Emma. That's not true," Nathan said desperately. "We can figure this out together." "Can we?" Emma asked, tears finally spilling over. "Your mother is systematically destroying my business. Your ex-fiancé is threatening me. My ex-boyfriend shows up expecting to rescue me. And through it all, you're asking me to trust that love is enough to overcome all of this." "It is enough," Nathan insisted. Emma shook her head sadly. "Maybe in fairy tales. But this is real life, and in real life, sometimes love isn't enough." The words seemed to physically wound Nathan. He took a step back as if she had slapped him. "So, that's it?" he asked, his voice hollow. "You're giving up?" "I'm being realistic," Emma replied, though the words tasted like ash in her mouth. "I can't fight your family, your business associates, and your entire world. I'm just one person with a small cafe." Grace's intervention before anyone could respond. The cafe door opened one more time, and a young woman with Nathan's dark hair and determined expression strode in. Emma recognized her immediately from the society page's Grace Winters, Nathan's younger sister. "Nathan, there you are," Grace said, her voice carrying the authority of someone much older than her 24 years. "Mother is having an absolute fit about the news coverage, and she's threatening to call an emergency board meeting." Grace's sharp eyes took in the tableau, Isabella, looking smugly satisfied. Ryan standing protectively near Emma, and Nathan looking like his world was crumbling. "Oh, good," Grace said dryly. "Isabella's here." "How delightfully predictable." "Grace, this doesn't concern you," Isabella said coolly. "Anything that concerns my brother concerns me," Grace replied, then turned to Emma. "You must be the famous coffee shop owner who has everyone's knickers in a twist." "I'm Grace, Nathan's sister, and the only sane member of our family." An unexpected alliance. Grace's direct approach seemed to shift the energy in the room. She pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited, gesturing for everyone else to do the same. "Right, let's sort this mess out properly," she said with the brisk efficiency of someone accustomed to managing chaos. "Isabella, whatever scheme you and Mother have cooked up, it ends now. Emma, while I understand the urge to run away when faced with our family's particular brand of insanity, I think you might be making a mistake." Grace Nathan started, but his sister held up a hand. "I'm not finished, Ryan, is it? Look like the kind of man who thinks he can solve every problem with good intentions and a firm handshake. That's sweet, but this situation requires a bit more sophistication?" Ryan bristled. "I'm just trying to protect Emma. From what? Success? Love? A chance to build something extraordinary?" Grace's voice was sharp, because that's what Nathan is offering if anyone bothered to ask him. The truth about Nathan. Grace turned to her brother, her expression softening. Nathan, you absolute idiot. Have you told Emma about the Henderson merger? Nathan shifted uncomfortably. That's not relevant. It's completely relevant, Grace interrupted. Emma. My brother spent the last 3 weeks restructuring a major business deal to include provisions for small business development and community investment. Guess what inspired that particular bit of corporate altruism? Emma's eyes widened as she looked at Nathan. Is that true? It's just business, Nathan said quietly, but his eyes told a different story. It's a $50 million commitment to supporting local entrepreneurs, Grace continued relentlessly. Funny how that idea came to him right after he started spending time in a certain coffee shop. Isabella's composure finally cracked. That's business suicide. The board will never approve it. The board already did approve it, Grace said with satisfaction. Unanimously. Turns out, genuine community investment is quite popular with shareholders these days. The real Sophia Chung. Grace wasn't finished. And Emma, while my mother can be absolutely ruthless when she feels threatened, she's not actually evil. She's just scared. Scared. Emma couldn't hide her disbelief. Terrified, Grace confirmed. Nathan is her only son, heir to everything my father built. She spent years preparing him for a life of duty and obligation, and then you come along and remind him that he's also a person with the right to choose his own happiness. Grace pulled out her phone and showed Emma a photo of Sophia Chen in casual clothes, laughing with a group of children at what appeared to be a community center. Mother runs a scholarship program for underprivileged kids, Grace explained. Anonymously, she's funded dozens of small businesses through her foundation. She understands exactly what your cafe means to you, which is why she's so threatened by it. The moment of truth. Emma stared at the photo, her understanding of Nathan's family shifting once again. Then why the threats, the sabotage? Because she's watching her carefully constructed world fall apart, Grace said gently. But Emma, what she doesn't understand, what none of them understand, is that you're not trying to take Nathan away from his responsibilities. You're helping him remember why those responsibilities matter. Nathan had been silent during his sister's revelations, but now he stepped forward. Emma, Grace is right. These past few weeks with you have reminded me why I wanted to build something meaningful in the first place. It's not just for profit or power, but to make a real difference. Emma looked around the room, Isabella's defeated expression, Ryan's confused face, Grace's encouraging smile, and Nathan's hopeful eyes. The choice that had seemed impossible moments before suddenly became crystal clear. The decision, Isabella, Emma said, turning to face the other woman. You're right about one thing. Nathan needs someone who understands his world, but you're wrong about everything else. He doesn't need someone who will simply navigate board meetings and charity galas. He needs someone who will remind him why those things matter, who will keep him grounded in what's real. Isabella's face flushed with anger. You think you can just waltz into our world and change everything? I'm not trying to change anything, Emma replied firmly. I'm just trying to be myself. If that's threatening to you, maybe you should ask. Yourself? Why? She turned to Ryan, her expression softening with genuine affection. Ryan, I'm grateful that you came. It means more than you know that you wanted to protect me. But I don't need protecting, I need supporting. There's a difference. Finally, she faced Nathan, her heart hammering in her chest. And you, incredible, frustrating, wonderful man, you need to stop trying to save me from your world and start trusting me to find my own place in it. The kiss. Nathan's face transformed with hope and relief. What does that mean? It means I'm willing to fight for this, Emma said, stepping closer to him. But we fight together as equals. No more secrets, no more protecting me from the truth. If we're going to make this work, I need to know everything. Everything, Nathan agreed, reaching for her hands. Good, Grace said with satisfaction. Now that we've sorted that out, I suggest we call Mother and tell her she's about to gain a daughter-in-law who makes excellent coffee and doesn't take any nonsense. She'll either love Emma or spontaneously combust. Either way it should be entertaining. Nathan laughed, the first genuine laugh Emma had heard from him all day. "I love you," he said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I love you too," Emma replied. And suddenly nothing else mattered, not Isabella's shocked gasp, not Ryan's disappointed sigh, not the customers who had witnessed the entire drama unfold when Nathan kissed her right there in the middle of her cafe with half the city watching. Emma felt like she was finally home. 6 months later, the wedding was small and intimate. Held in Moonbeam Café on a Sunday morning when the space was filled with golden light and the scent of fresh coffee, Sophia Chen, resplendent in lavender silk, had indeed fallen in love with Emma, though not without a few strategic battles first. She now visited the cafe weekly, ostensibly to check on business, but actually to trade stories with Emma about Nathan's childhood and to spoil the neighborhood. Children who came for story time, Isabella had moved to London to manage her family's European operations, sending a surprisingly gracious wedding gift and a note that read, "You won fairly. Take care of him." Ryan had stayed in town long enough to attend the wedding as Emma's friend, bringing his new girlfriend a lovely teacher who appreciated his steadiness in ways Emma never had, and Grace had become Emma's closest confidant, helping navigate the complex world of corporate charity events while ensuring that Emma never lost sight of what made her cafe special, the ever. After, as Emma stood behind the counter of her expanded cafe, now featuring a second location in Cross Technologies headquarters, she watched Nathan work at his usual table. He was on a video call with investors in Tokyo, but every few minutes his eyes would find hers across the room, and he would smile. The business partnership had evolved far beyond coffee services. Nathan's community investment initiative had helped launch dozens of small businesses across the city, with Emma serving as an advisor and advocate for entrepreneurs who reminded her, for self-dreamers with big hearts and small budgets. "You know what I love most about your story?" Chloe said, appearing at Emma's elbow with her usual perfect timing. She was now the manager of the original Moonbeam Café, having discovered a talent for business that surprised everyone, including herself. "What's that?" Emma asked, not taking her eyes off Nathan. "You didn't change yourself to fit into his world, and you didn't ask him to abandon his responsibilities for you. You just ... found a way to make both worlds bigger." Emma smiled, thinking about the foundation they were launching next month, the scholarship program Sophia had asked her to help design, and the small coffee farm in Colombia they were planning to visit for their first anniversary. "We're still figuring it out," she said honestly. "But I guess that's what love is, not having all the answers, but being willing to search for them together." Nathan's call ended, and he looked up to catch Emma watching him. Even across the crowded cafe, she could see the love in his eyes, the contentment that had replaced the driven intensity she had first noticed. He had learned to find joy in small moments: Sunday mornings in the cafe, quiet evenings cooking dinner together, the satisfaction of watching their community programs change lives. And Emma had learned that she was stronger than she had ever imagined, capable of holding her own in boardrooms and charity galas while never losing sight of what truly mattered. As Nathan closed his laptop and headed toward the counter for his afternoon coffee, Emma reflected on how far they had both traveled from that rainy morning when a rude customer had demanded coffee without caring about its story. Now they were writing their own story together. One cup of coffee, one shared dream, one ordinary moment of extraordinary love at a time. "The usual?" Emma asked as Nathan approached, though she was already reaching for the Ethiopian beans. "Always," Nathan replied, leaning across the counter to steal a quick kiss. "Though I have to admit, it tastes even better when the barista is my wife." Emma laughed, the sound mixing with the familiar music of the cafe, the hiss of the espresso machine, the gentle murmur of conversation, the rustle of turning pages. It was the soundtrack of a life well lived, a love well fought for, and a future full of infinite possibility. And in the end, that was more than enough. The end.